ready for countdown.
You're listening to Compete Radio with your host, Josh Fourier. Sports News Brief with Buddy Early. Alfonso Chavez with Sports Pop. The conservative voice, Eric Carlisle. And resident straight lady, Connie Wardman.
And welcome to the show. I'm your host, Josh Fourier, here with Alfonso Chavez, Buddy Early, Connie Wardman, and Eric is on vacation.
Oh, lucky
He
jerk.
deserves to be on vacation.
About time, right? I mean, it's about time someone in this office took a vacation.
Well, Alfonso took a semi-hemi-quaver vacation.
I was out with strep throat, so that counts as a vacation for me.
See, I don't think that counts.
I was out, and I was getting paid for my sick time, so to me, that's vacation. Getting
Alfonso
paid, not at work.
being out sick for a week is a vacation for me, too.
Well, as most of us.
Okay.
Well, we're glad you're back, Alfonso. And,
We are.
I'm not sure I can say the same.
We're glad you're
after
back
all
and
that.
not contagious. That's the big thing.
That is the big thing.
Yeah.
So, just real quickly, Dancing with the Stars, I don't know if anyone saw it Monday, but Kirstie Alley was on there. She did really well. She looked really thin. However, she admitted she's on a 1,400 calorie a day diet. She was passing out, lightheaded, blood sugar, very dangerous. So,
Well,
media's latching onto that.
well, what's with her anyway? I mean, I understand problems. Ooh.
Yeah, she does have the problems, but, you know, she didn't learn anything from Jenny Craig, right? That's a crash diet.
Apparently not.
Crash diet.
She has turkey.
This is Sports Pop.
So, speaking of crash diets, Alfonso, we have a lot going on in Sports Pop, right? Nice segue there.
Yeah, I haven't been crash dieting, but you know it's not a bad idea.
Alfonso always gives us a steady diet of sports and pop culture.
He does. It's a nice meaty mixture of
with mild annoyances thrown in there.
of course.
So one thing that came up in the news that really got my attention was kind of a comparison to something that happened with Kobe Bryant. Now, we all are familiar with his incident with the referee.
I thought it was Kobe.
Kobe,
Yeah, did you
excuse
say
me.
Kobe?
I'm thinking of beef. I'm sorry, Kobe beef.
Sounded
I
like
was going
Kobe
to say,
Bryant,
where's the
excuse
beef?
me.
And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, no, don't do it.
Maybe I want a hamburger. Maybe that's
kind of
what's
like the
going on.
royal wedding is still. It's Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
darling.
something. But
Sorry, go ahead.
we all understand what it's like to be on the side of a word that really offends us or that makes us unhappy about its use. But what about when we're on the other side of that? And that's kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. The website sbnation.com ran an article that really got me thinking about the use of words that may be offensive to other people that we may think are, or I may not think is such a big deal that they're used.
Okay,
Like-
such as?
Well, specifically in this article, it's the word retarded.
Oh.
Now, I know,
Nice.
I know a lot of people have used that in jest or just basically to shoot something down and call it dumb, which is basically what happened in this situation. So, what actually brought this article up was a situation where Dwayne Wade and LeBron James were being interviewed after a game, and this was a game against the Celtics, and a reporter asked Dwayne Wade what he had to say about people who thought his play was dirty. And Wade kind of raised his eyebrow and looked at her. I don't know what his reasons were to do that. Maybe he didn't understand, or maybe he didn't agree with the question, but he did this, and he asked her who was asking this, and she repeated the question. What did she have to say, or what did Wade have to say to people who thought that his play against the Celtics was dirty? And he kind of looked like he was thinking a bit, and LeBron James kind of had his mouth covered by his hand, and he says, "That's retarded." And we know the word retarded isn't used to define somebody, or I'll use the clinical definition, characterized by significantly impaired cognitive functioning and deficits into or more adaptive behaviors. Now, this is a
Thank
clinical...
you, Daniel Webster.
Well, it's a clinical definition that I found on Wikipedia. But
doesn't that make more sense? Like, I've been guilty of that, to say, oh, that's retarded. Like, doesn't it make more sense to say retarded because that is actually the definition, as opposed to saying that's gay?
Right. It still may be insensitive, but it's a little more, if you want to say, accurate than something gay.
I think it's totally ignorant when people walk around saying, "Oh, that's gay. That's gay." I mean,
it is.
That doesn't make any sense. But to say that's retarded is. I mean, that is the actual definition.
All of that is very true, except one of the things that happens with kids, particularly growing up, and then we put it in our lexicon, and when we're grown up, we still continue to use it. But kids who don't have any sense of what being gay or being retarded really means to them, because they generally don't interact with it a lot at a young age. You know, I remember when my kids first came home and said, "Oh, me," and I said, "What?" They didn't know what any of that meant. I mean, really. Okay. But they carry on without having some kind of sensitivity training, and I think that's always a plus when you're an adult in a work environment.
Well, one of the things that Alfonso was alluding to was just a few weeks back when Kobe Bryant got into trouble and was fined $100,000 by the NBA, and now has to make public service announcements for calling a ref a it, which was not a good thing to do. But and as much as I don't like Kobe Bryant as a basketball player, and I think it could potentially be a rapist, allegedly. I
think he needs to
I don't think there was darkness in his heart, so to speak. You know, a lot of people, without thinking, may say things like that, and it was wrong, and he's making right by the community, if you want to say that, and you move on. And I think this is a similar situation where LeBron shouldn't have said it, but a lot of us do. We use the word retarded when we shouldn't. And he's going to apologize and maybe make some sort of public announcement.
Maybe, like Kobe, he's going to buy a $100,000 ring for the
Sure.
Well, I think the whole issue here is the word retarded in many contexts is used in a way to degrade and belittle somebody, to make them feel like they're less than somebody else. They're not using a clinical or a dictionary definition of it that means that something's like held back or
something is retarded, isn't it? Isn't it less than?
So her question is less than the other reporter's question. You're agreeing with that.
But, not necessarily with that case, but I think Josh and I are arguing about the usage of the word retarded to define anything. Mm-hmm. And I think these days what a lot of people object to is referring to mentally handicapped people as retarded. They don't want that word used because the word retarded does mean less than.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think LeBron probably used
not up
it.
To speed.
LeBron probably used it in a way that is more acceptable than to call a person who is physically handicapped retarded, because that's not what you're supposed to do nowadays.
I mean, if all this is a matter of sensitivity, I understand sensitivity. I understand we need to be respectful as the best we can. But I guarantee you, anyone at this table or anyone listening to the show right now, if the world was watching you, you would not be able to get through your day without offending somebody. And I think people are just too sensitive. I mean,
I don't
grow a set and just.
I don't think that's what the point is here. I think the point Well, I think maybe you are seeing maybe my point. I don't know, but
the issue is that he said retarded, right?
Well, what's happening is we're offended when people say fat, but we don't understand why somebody would be offended when we say retarded. That's basically what's going on here.
Because the gay F word is derogatory. It's like saying the N word, whereas the definitions aren't consistent. Mm-hmm. Now, retarded, the definition would be consistent with what retarded means.
But There's a whole other issue here as we're running out of time, and that's calling Dwayne Wade's play dirty, because they're playing the Celtics, and Kevin Garnett is, in fact, the dirty player. So I think the question probably was a little retarded.
Well,
dear heaven. Here we go again.
Lots of opinions on that for sure. Log on to CompeteRadio.com, hop over to our Facebook, or give us a call and let us know what you think is retarded offensive.
And it's none of us. Be very
Send
clear
your
about
letters
that.
to Josh at CompeteRadio.com.
I don't think my point was received.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Your Compete Radio.
Madison's Progressive Talk. The Mike 92.1.
And welcome back. I'm your host, Josh Fourier. We're here with Patrick Davis. He is the president of Ben Cohen USA. Alfonso is here with me. Connie and Buddy, they're taking a break, right? They went to lunch.
They're out to lunch, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, Patrick, welcome to the show. It's an honor having you here. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much, guys. Glad to be with you.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here. We understand that Ben Cohen himself is actually going to be on our show. That's exciting.
He is, and he's very excited about it. He's actually arrived in the U.S. today, and is starting a whole run of media interviews and appearances leading up to the Ben Cohen Acceptance Tour, which officially kicks off on May 19th in Atlanta, Georgia. And before that, he'll be in San Francisco at the GLAAD Awards. So he has a great deal of good things going on here in the U.S.
Right. Now, for those of us, I mean, I'm not a hardcore sports fan by any means, but even I know who Ben Cohen is. But I'm sure that there's people out there who don't know. I mean, he'll be here to, of course, tell us about himself, but there are people that don't know who he is. Could you just give us a brief rundown on who Ben Cohen is and what he stands for? You bet.
And maybe the quickest way to understand it is Ben is really sort of the David Beckham of rugby. He's certainly one of the world's greatest athletes. He's second in all-time scoring for England. He's a World Cup rugby champion. And he is a global sex symbol for hundreds and thousands of people. And
yes,
he has had a vision for a long time to take the fan base and the trust that people placed in him and give back. And that's what he's doing with this tour and with the Ben Cohen Stand Up Foundation, which is focused on anti-bullying work. And that's what this tour is in support and what is kicking off now.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to touch on your sex symbol comment. He's definitely, as mentioned several times on this show, been a sex symbol for us here on the Compete Radio crew. I always reference him under the Rosie O'Donnell definition of cutie patootie because he absolutely is. But you know what seems really interesting about that is I'm sure he's well aware of his sex symbol status, but he doesn't seem to have that cocky attitude that a lot of people will get when they
Yeah, you're right. And what is really interesting about it is Ben actually finds it quite entertaining and silly. He is a very modest man. He's actually a very friendly, approachable man. And he says some days it's quite lost on him what the excitement is about, but he's very thankful for it. So he is aware of it, but a little bit sheepishly enjoying it because it strikes him as unexpected in some ways. That's certainly not how he sees himself. He's first and foremost a rugby player, and now really a humanitarian and an advocate on this cause. So that's where his mind tends to go. But he's very appreciative of it. He actually does read all of the comments on Facebook and on Twitter and the things that are emailed in, and gets a real kick out of some of the ones that are, let's say, a little bit more provocative.
Right. Well, I would imagine when he is in person, doing like his acceptance tour, for example, when he's doing things like this, and there's these gay guys, I'm sure, that approach him and try to come on to him, the ultimate converting the straight guy type syndrome.
Which we frown upon here at Compete.
We do. I mean, we're a gay show, but we're definitely not.
We're realistic.
Yeah,
we are realistic.
Not scandalous.
I'm afraid we're all out of luck on that front, and his lovely wife Abby would probably jump in the middle of anything that got a step too far.
I would think she would have issue with that, but I think it would be pretty funny to see how he deals with these gay guys that try to hit on him, in person. I think it would be kind of comical, but I'm sure he's developed his routine, right?
Oh yeah, he's very entertained by it. He finds the guys just lovely. That's his word for it. And occasionally, he'll take a step out of his comfort zone in an event in the UK recently called Beer with Ben. He ended up doing an auction for the shirt off his back. Everybody wanted a real live look at what you see in the calendars, and I think that shirt ended up going up for something like close to $5,000. So every once in a while, if it's for a good cause and folks are really excited. He'll go ahead and give a little reward for all the attention.
Yeah. Well, no, let's talk about this acceptance tour. I mean, that is a wonderful accomplishment. I mean, $5,000, that's a good chunk of change. But this acceptance tour, what's the purpose of this? Why is he flew across the pond over to the United States to do this? Why?
Yeah, so it began when the tragedy of the bullying suicides came to real light earlier this year and late last year, and he was really very personally impacted by it. His own father died at the hands of bullies who beat him to death. So this really resonated with Ben in a very powerful way, and he couldn't believe that there was not more being done and there wasn't a more organized response to it. So he started exploring the idea of how to respond and how to stand up for the people who have stood up for him as his fans. And so the acceptance tour is to raise awareness about bullying, to raise money for the Ben Cohen Stand Up Foundation, and to partner with gay and gay-friendly rugby clubs across the country and talk about bullying and homophobia in sports, how it often begins there and how some of the cure for it can start there as well. So it's very much a grassroots effort in response to what he found to be a very, very painful reminder of what bullying can do to people's lives.
Well, now you kind of opened very briefly in kind of a passing sentence. You opened a huge door that I'd never heard about, was with his father. I mean, so you're saying that his father died at the hands of. Can we go into more detail on this, because what you said really is answering my next question.
And I think that's really going to catch a lot of people's attention, because I didn't know that either.
Well, it caught mine. I mean, that's a big.
Sure, and as beautiful and big and strong as Ben is, he's also clinically deaf. He has some of his own challenges, so he actually really understands some of the vulnerability that people face, whether it's from their own personal identity, their sexual orientation, perhaps some other limitation in life. So his personal commitment runs on a number of fronts. He really doesn't talk very much about his father because it's very painful, but I'm sure he will come back when he visited personally. But his father owned a lovely pub in the UK. And some fellows that he needed to have settle down didn't want to, and brought back a group of friends that kept escalating and taunting and pushing, and eventually got well out of hand, and his father ended up not surviving that. So Ben has talked with me very, very personally about sort of the Cohen family trait of not being pleased and using your strength for good and not responding to people like that. And it came home in a very, very painful way for him. So part of his resolve to stand up and make sure that other people are not hurt and other families don't suffer that type of devastating tragedy is where much of the motivation of this comes from. He's and as a father of two beautiful girls, the idea of anybody picking on his own children, like any father or parent would feel is part of this as well. He really truly wants the world to be a safer place, and as he often says, as a world athlete, it's not enough just to have a strong body. We have to have strong characters. And enough's enough. It's time to stand up against this kind of behavior.
Well, amen to that.
Yeah, I mean, he has gained so much more. I mean, he had my respect from the get-go, but he has gained so much more of my respect just after hearing what you've said about him, to take something so horrible as losing your father and turning that around into what he's doing with his life. And that actually answered...
He is a remarkable man.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my long-running questions was, why does Ben Cohen pick this good cause and do this with his life? Why not do something else? And, well, thank you for answering that, because I had always wondered that forever, and now it makes absolute sense. I really just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're extremely busy, and thank you so much for being on the show.
You bet. It's a real pleasure, and he's very, very excited to be here in the U.S. To see all of you guys. We're really appreciative and thankful for the involvement and support of Compete and of the rugby teams across the country, and of course Ben's hundreds of thousands of fans. So hope you will be listening and joining in on all of this with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick. We need to take a break, but we'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to the only GLBT sports radio show in the nation. Compete Radio.
Welcome back. Anytime we talk about Ben Cohen or anyone associated with him and his whole campaign, his tour, it gets me really excited. I'm looking forward to him being on the show. He's a great guy.
Me too.
Got a little tickle going on there.
More than a little tickle, Alfonso.
No.
But
is that the R word? I'm sorry. I digress.
Really,
Wow.
Connie?
My tickles are not Connie.
Oh, man. Next topic.
See, now, are people really going to be offended by that?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Really?
Sure.
I don't understand. I don't.
People will find offense in everything, and I'm not saying that they don't have a right to be offended by that, but you can't stop people from being offended.
Yeah.
It's
No.
always
And that was part of what Alfonso's comment was about.
Well, now hold on, because I think we all may have. Well, you didn't chime in too much, Connie, but I think we all.
Yeah, I did, because I think the whole idea is that we are now who we were then, the old Morris Massey stuff, and so what our conversation is about as we're in grade school and junior high school growing up. We have a lot of phrases that all of a sudden start to repeat themselves in our adult lives without thinking about it any more than we knew to think about it when we were in grade school.
So just real quickly, if we missed your point, Alfonso, can you just quickly just chime in here and let us know what...
I'd actually like to get to some of the other stuff that I have. I'm kind of like...
Because I don't think we missed his point.
Yeah,
we don't agree with him.
Well, no, I just want to give you that opportunity because you said before the break in the first segment that we were missing your point.
Just
so if
really
we were,
quickly, I think the point is it's easy for us to see what we find offensive and validate that, but when it's something that we think it's okay to say, it's different. It's harder for us to sometimes see why somebody would be offended by the use of other words that we don't think are offensive.
There's an old saying that says, whether you're offended by something depends on whose ox is being gored.
Yeah,
in other words, if it's your ox, it's terrible. If it's somebody else's and not yours, why?
So, Alfonso, let's gore some more oxes. What else do you have for us?
The first thing I wanted to say is I wanted to congratulate Animal Kingdom, the winner of the Kentucky Derby over the weekend.
Really?
Oh, I thought it was a television program. Darn.
Well, it is, but it's also a horse. And I also
is it like today or was it last weekend?
It was last weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. And Aaron Andrews of ESPN won Fierce Hat in my Kentucky Derby Hat Awards.
I lost again.
That exists right in a place else.
Is Aaron shave his or her legs?
It's a she, yeah. It's a blonde she. Yeah.
I didn't know. It could have been a male, Aaron.
I assume she does if she's on a sports show.
Maybe not.
Yeah, so that happened. There was one other thing I quickly wanted to mention also before we get into one of our topics. There was a Wisconsin judge who was sentencing a man on molestation charges, and I guess the defendant claimed he was a heterosexual, and the judge told him that he was born gayer than a sweet-smelling jockstrap.
No, see, I'm offended by that.
Isn't that the oddest?
Here's what's funny, is that it was a judge in Wisconsin, because that sounds like a good old Alabama judge. You were born gayer than a sweet-smelling jockstrap.
Madison, we're sorry. We're sorry, Madison.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
What constitutes a sweet-smelling jockstrap is really my question.
We'll come to my car after the show. And
I'm assuming it's more
God.
pungent. Yeah. Anyway.
See, sweet-smelling, I never would associate that with the jockstrap.
Maybe it's a jockstrap queen.
Now, Buddy, I guess, has experience.
No, she's very clean.
No, that's what I mean. Maybe she has a sweet-smelling jockstrap that you scratch and sniff.
Oh, she could. She's very inventive and creative.
Yeah, anyway. There was one...
show has gone downhill.
Yeah.
I'm tasting lunch again.
There's this
Austrian credits.
There's this Austrian Olympic swimmer who did something really stupid.
Wait, I thought he was Australian.
Austrian.
Oh, I had that wrong. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's Yaqub Mali. Now, this guy's 19 years old, so I guess I can give him a little bit of leeway for doing something so dumb. He trains in Florida and South Florida, excuse me. And on one of his team's days off, he was down at Pompano Beach, and he thought it would be funny to dig a hole and jump into it.
A hole where?
On the beach.
Okay.
So he dug this 6 foot wide, 7 foot deep hole, jumped in, and it collapsed around him. So the sand was around him up to his neck, and it took 60 emergency workers to get him back out, and it took about 2 hours to dig him back out of that hole.
See, again, I read a different story because I read it took them 20 hours.
No, it was 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are we back to the word usage in our earlier segment?
Oh, please, can we let that die?
All right.
I think Alfonso's going to jump over the table if we bring that up.
No, you know what? I think I knew where you were going with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm offended by it. I'm just saying that I can.
Well,
I'm trying to see both sides.
Let's say maybe all of the water he's encountered in his life as a swimmer has washed a few of the brain cells out.
Hey, here's something that happened with me with the show where
What?
we have someone, I won't specify who it was, but I would always say LGBT.
Right.
And this really offended a certain person that we had in here for an interview because it's supposed to be LGBT.
That's what you said both times.
Well, I'm just saying that offended this person
Well,
because I switched the letters.
You said LGBT is what you normally say, and then you said he was offended by LGBT.
Sorry, GLBT is what I normally say, and then I said, or I didn't say LGBT like I should have.
Yeah. Can I jump
That's
in?
rather
'Cause this
sexist, I think.
This is something that hits close to home for me as someone who's been in the LGBT or GLBT media for a long time.
Is there a difference?
There is no supposed to.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can do what you want,
Thank you.
first of
Thank
all.
you.
Well, see, that's kind of my point with the whole retarded thing. Like, there is no supposed to. If it offends you as an individual, then that's your right to be offended. Fine.
And I don't know who this guest was, and I'm sure.
Oh, yes, you do.
I mean, I probably know
You
the
too.
guest, but I don't know specifically off the top of my head which guest it was. And he or she's entitled to prefer what she prefers.
Aha.
I'm assuming it was a her because
Yes.
of my experience in this industry.
My only thing, I was just trying to make a point that people
Yeah.
are offended by what they choose to be
Exactly.
offended by.
Oh,
and that's,
yeah.
You know,
Just knock it off. Go have
I know.
a
Lighten
bar
up.
or something.
Yes.
Late or
maybe
something.
we're the only
Yeah.
ones that are offended by anything. That's why we're talking. Maybe nobody else really cares.
Yeah.
On our marketing materials we had, is anybody out there? We want to know, is anybody listening?
Yeah, maybe we're the only ones with the issues. God.
What else you got going on,
It's our own
Alfonso?
support group, huh? Poor Alfonso. We've torn apart.
Oh, you act like you don't do this every week.
We've torn apart. Welcome back, Alfonso.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I quickly wanted to mention was I don't know if you mentioned Peter Vidmar.
Yeah.
Name sounds familiar.
Well,
I just mentioned in our news bit a little while ago, but let's talk
okay.
about that a little
Thank
more.
you.
Yeah, well, what happened was there was this whole pot of controversy that was stirred over his selection as chef de mission for the U.S. Olympic team.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Peter Vidmar is already the chairperson for USA Gymnastics.
Yeah, but let's also say who he is because, a lot of people like Connie may not know.
Yeah.
He's a gold medal winning gymnast from the 1984 games.
That's
He's on
okay.
that
That's
team
where
that won the gold. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
scored like a perfect 10 on pommel horse, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that he did, but he's actually the highest scoring American gymnast in Olympic history.
no kidding.
And he's also a speaker.
Okay.
And part of when he does his speaking engagements is to perform part of his pommel horse routine to drive home his message.
And his message is
about being successful and
Okay.
blah blah blah. Yeah, that's $12,500 includes a pommel horse routine.
anybody who makes me do that to be successful is out of here.
Just really quickly, he actually was an activist for Prop 8 in California, the law that wanted to ban same-sex marriage.
Right.
And Johnny Weir made a comment that he wouldn't want to be represented by somebody who's anti-gay marriage, and this isn't about marriage only, it's about equal rights for everybody. And he had a problem with the fact that Vidmar was so publicly against gay marriage. You know, it wasn't just, this is my belief, he was actually involved with some activism.
He participated in rallies for Prop A and donated like $10,000.
Just $2,000, but still.
Where are the two of you getting your information? There's a huge...
We're on a...
Anyway.
This is like a tornado. I'm just sitting here watching you guys.
Yeah, anyway,
Wow.
What happened was that Vidmar ended up stepping down because it turned into this big distraction for the Olympic team that he was part of this whole marriage inequality stuff,
right.
and he thought that he wasn't, that it was more of a problem for the U.S. Olympic Committee than it was doing them a favor.
Well, good for whoever made that decision.
He did. He stepped down himself.
He did, but it was because of
sure
the pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of the other Olympic officials thought Olympics are stand for equality for all, and this doesn't represent us. So,
Hey, something else that stands for equality. Log on to CompeteRadio.com. We have news, information, hot topics, and more. Also, hop over to our Facebook page and let us know what you think about our show and any ideas you might have. We'll take a break, but events is next.
You're listening to the only GLBT sports radio show in the nation. Compete Radio.
Welcome back. It's time for events in your neighborhood and around the world with what?
Hello, where is
with the
Eric?
whole Compete Radio team.
Eric is not. Yeah, Eric's not here with us this
No.
week. So what's going to happen for the next 6 minutes of the show?
I'd actually like to ask you, Buddy, to kind of start a question off, because first of all, for all of you listeners out there, if you don't get Compete Magazine, you really should. Bud is the editor, and one of the neat things he does is the sports yearbook, and it's, what happened in history. And this was last month, but the whole deal about Jackie Robinson's anniversary of being the first black guy in Olympics, and now here
in baseball, you mean?
No, is it
Thank
black?
you,
Is it
yes.
is it black or African American?
At that
Lord
time,
in
it was
heaven.
actually, he broke the colored barrier.
Well,
That's what they called
yes,
it.
when he was there, it was colored.
Yeah.
Another one of those deals. I'm sorry.
Didn't want to offend.
I know, but I know why Connie's bringing this up, because it parallels the number of events that are coming up in May, big events that we are sponsoring all across the country in 4 cities, in Atlanta, New York City, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. So if you're in any of those cities or even near them, get there, because Ben Cohen, who I think most of our listeners know, but if you don't,
of course,
once again, he's hottie rugby player who stands for equality.
Cutie patootie, as Rosie
Cutie
O'Donnell says.
patootie.
Yeah.
He's straight, kids.
Or hottie patati, as other people might say.
He has come to this country for the month of May, and he's I missed something.
No, they're just laughing. It's okay.
He's going to these cities and hosting events on his equality tour, his acceptance tour.
Yeah.
And this is really remarkable because Connie brought up Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in baseball. Ben Cohen's trying to do this in all of sports. He's trying to promote tolerance and acceptance and equality.
And he's a straight guy. This is the amazing thing. And we had the royal wedding not too long ago, and there was who's the big rugby player, Beckham, that was there with his wife.
Soccer player.
Thank you. I'm just totally off today. I'm sorry. I've got too much aluminum foil on my head. Anyway, they say that in Europe, I missed that one, and I'm going to let it go. In Europe, he really
You
is
said
more
it. How could you miss
than
it?
David Beckham. Huh? Oh, it's a fun day in
So, Buddy, this Ben
Toonville.
Cohen tour.
Yeah.
He's the only sane one left.
Don't they call it football
old Eddie.
too? Soccer? Don't they call it football?
It's called football everywhere but the United States.
I cannot keep up with this show today. I don't know what's going on.
Here's the thing.
So anyway, if you're in or near any of those cities, I highly recommend getting there to meet with Ben. See, I mean, it's with these up close and personal things. This isn't like going to a big theater and Ben's going to talk at you. I mean, these are in the community. You can meet Ben. You can see what he's all about. Learn about him. Touch him.
I beg your
not
pardon?
everywhere, but I'm
In
sure
a respectful manner, of
in a
course.
respectful manner.
See, we've just now opened up a whole door of problems for poor Ben.
Oh my Lord!
He is a good old boy who likes to sit down at the local pub and have a pint with the guys. He's not a professional speaker. This is something that he really believes in as a straight guy. He sees all this bullying as something terrible, and he wants to do something to change everybody's idea of this. And 3 cheers for him.
Yeah. And his people, in quotes, if that's what you want to call them, his handlers, his people, are all on board with this. I mean, they're so
Patrick,
excited.
Right? Who we
Patrick.
Our interviewer today.
Jill, who works for him, who is just so out in front of all of this stuff that's going on. And it really makes me happy that it's not just the athlete, but it's everyone around them who are supporting this. Unlike Sean Avery's agent, if you heard this past week, Sean Avery is a hockey player who came out in support of gay marriage equality. And his agent...
Well, it's not his agent.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is his agent?
Yes, that I know.
Okay.
Came out afterward and said...
it's never going to be right, and he doesn't agree with it, and then he said, "Oh, but I don't hate anybody. It's just how I feel."
Which brings up a whole other issue.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, I think your kid's an idiot. I don't hate your kid, but yeah.
Well, also, nobody cares what agents have to say. He's like a Jerry Maguire. It's like nobody cares about you.
And then his dad made the man and horse comparison that
Hey guys, guess what?
What?
We're out of time.
Oh no,
we made it.
You know what that is? That's retarded, Josh.
Oh. Now, see, I was almost offended, buddy. Almost there. Thank you very much for listening. Be sure to log on to CompeteRadio.com. Also, order your subscription of Compete Magazine. It's issued once a month. Very nice publication.
Send those emails.
That's right. CompeteRadio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Berkeley Running Company. Your town, your neighborhood, your store. That's the motto that Berkeley stands by as Madison's premier running and walking specialty store. No matter your level or your experience, Berkeley will help you find the perfect shoe that will fit your lifestyle and your feet. With outstanding customer service, Berkeley will always provide expert advice on training, nutrition, and more. Also visit the Berkeley on University Avenue for the warmest and most comfortable running apparel. Berkeley Running Company. Your town, your neighbor, your store.
Pride Fest Milwaukee will soon be lighting up the lakeshore with its 24th annual LGBT Pride celebration. June 10th, 11th, and 12th, the Summerfest grounds will be buzzing with over 150 acts on 8 different stages. Music, dance, history, arts, shopping, family, friends, it's all there at Pride Fest Milwaukee. Visit pridefest.com and purchase tickets in advance for only $16. Save $2 off the gate price. Reserve, group, and special VIP tickets are also available. Make it a weekend with special hotel rates. Visit pridefest.com for more information. Pride Fest Milwaukee on the Summerfest grounds, June 10th, 11th, and 12th.